Greetings and good morning, everyone. It's Monday morning here, and this is your forecast for Unit 4. Before I get started, I wanted to talk about a couple things such as team projects and some expectations moving forward. I also wanted to do a pulse check and ensure that these videos are helping and giving you clarity on the week's assignment. Once you finish watching this video, please comment below and let me know if you're finding these videos helpful. One of the biggest reasons why I'm asking is because some of you are hitting the expectations right on the nail and some are completely missing it. And so it's important to make sure that we're not wasting time and that these videos are being actually helpful for your development in this course, okay? So I'm happy to announce that we have 5 organizations that will be analyzing this quarter. So I'm moving on to talking about now our team projects. And I wanted to announce what organizations we'll be looking at. So we have Google, Victoria's Secret, eBay, Dell, and then we have one group taking on a fictitious organization called Kinderhook College. Okay, so overall, I was really impressed with what was provided in the first group assignment. I just wanted to ensure that you all know that you can continue the second assignment on the same document. So just please make sure you let me know where that assignment begins on that document, okay? Also, ensuring that the document is double spaced and that it has a consistent font size and font color is also important. The document should read as one voice, right? I shouldn't see that different people did different sections. It should all flow as one voice and one team. All right. One of the things that I also am seeing is that we have to include our names at the top of the document. It does take some time for me to figure out who's in what group, and that's really helpful if you can just provide that up front. If you haven't typed up your own title page, right? So as a reminder, please use a lot of resources as well. I found that there were limited resources used for the first assignment, and I think the first assignment is really where a lot of your research comes into play because you're just diving in and looking into these organizations. So you need to let me know where you're getting your information on when it comes to these organizations. And lastly, the more of my feedback that you incorporate up front, the easier your final will be. So I would recommend starting to implement your APA formatting sooner than later, okay? So one of the things that I wanted to mention so that kind of sums up some expectations for team projects. And again, overall, it's looking really, really good, but we just have to tighten up in certain areas. So I wanted to also really quickly recap on Unit 3, specifically the discussion regarding your interviews. I just really wanted to highlight the amazing interviews that took place and all the insight provided. 2 posts that stood out were Morgan's and Camaria. And with Morgan, she discussed how her interviewee often finds that some of her labels and characteristics entangle in a way that is not accepted by her colleagues. Right, so we have all these roles: mother, friend, sister, brother. I mean, you name it. Right, we have all these labels, and sometimes you're right; they don't entangle so nicely and tie up like a bow. And so I really found that interesting because I feel that that's something that we all struggle with in some way, is trying to juggle, again, all of our labels. And Camaria, her interviewee, is someone who believes that sharing herself is not necessarily a necessity, right? And it doesn't even correlate with her productivity. I thought that was a very interesting statement because what I've come to realize is the more that you are able to share about yourself, the more comfortable you are, and hence the more productive you are with your team. What I've come to realize is folks who actually say that it doesn't really correlate is that they haven't really felt that engagement before, and sometimes when you don't have it, you feel that you don't need it, right? But 9 times out of 10, when I see a inclusive environment, I do see more productivity. And I wanted to kind of question you all and challenge you to think about that. How much is being diverse and inclusive important to our performance and productivity, right? Because if it wasn't correlated, then why are we here? So again, I found that comment very interesting, and I want that to be something that you guys ponder on as well. So I think that kind of sums up some of the previous assignments that you've all done that I wanted to really touch upon. And I'll be doing that throughout our videos as well. There's just certain segments that I like to touch on. Okay, so with that being said, let's look at Unit 4 and forecasting for Unit 4. One of the things that I like to do first is look at the syllabus and make sure that you guys all are aware of your deadlines. So the first one is you have your assignment 4A, right? The work of inclusive leadership, and that's due on April 3rd. So it's due this Wednesday at 10:59. And then you have 2 assignments due on Saturday. That is your team case study project. That's assignment 2, right? You've all worked on your organizations. I have approved those organizations, so please feel free to move on with those and again incorporate my feedback. And lastly, you have your book club summaries, okay? So again, that's due Saturday at 10:59. So what are the readings for this week? So you'll be reading chapter 6, right, and chapter 10. And it's right here. Okay, yeah, Ferdman, right, and chapter 6 and 10. And of course, you'll be reading Liz Wood, The Loudest Duck, and you'll be reading chapter 3. Okay, so when reading chapters 6 and 10, just wanted to emphasize that chapter 6 is really discussing moving away from traditional models of leadership and even traditional structures, right? We tend to have the hierarchy, right? And sometimes there's organizations that have flat structures and they work really well. So he touches a little bit more on that. And chapter 10 discusses the application of inclusive leadership. And this is an important week as we've been discussing how important the top of the systematic framework is, right? We've constantly have been saying for the last 3 weeks, leadership needs to be involved. Leadership needs to be aware first. It can't change if it doesn't, come from the top. And so this week is going to be really important on how you can really implement and apply an inclusive leadership within that organization. Okay? So that is our readings for this week. And of course, we have optional readings here that I recommend that you guys look at as well. All right. So then we also have our assignments, which I touched on with in terms of the deadlines, but what are you actually doing? So for assignment 4A, you'll be posting a discussion. Again, just a reminder, please add the sub questions first before answering each sub question. So the first sub question is, what role does leadership play in fostering inclusive cultures? And lastly, how should organizations implement leadership development in a way that both develops inclusion, leadership, and the environment itself? Okay, so that's your first question here, and I see that some people already got it started answering those questions. And then you have your team case, team assignment for this week, and the focus is on the communication methods, right? So what is the best method of communicating diversity and inclusion efforts to your team's chosen organization? So what does that mean for Victoria's Secret, eBay, Tell, right? The college, and I think I'm missing one more. What is the last organization? eBay, Dell, Victoria's Secret, and Google, of course, Google, right? So how do these communications methods that you guys looked at about a week ago, right? How does that apply now to your organization? So notice how everything is starting to tie in together, right? So what you'll do is you will vote on the best approach, right? And you'll actually summarize the findings within your document. Again, trying your best to use APA or it sounding like one voice is definitely the biggest thing that I'm trying to see, at least for now until you guys get to your final exam. Okay? All right. And just keep in mind you should have a new team leader this week. I like to rotate leaders as everyone should have an opportunity to shine. Okay? And lastly, we have our book club, and we actually have my favorite chapter, which is Tell Your Grandma to Go Home, right? And we're going to be discussing the biggest takeaways, what was interesting, shocking, right, and fascinating about this chapter. And so we have Jennifer, Dawn, Rachel, and Jason. You're up next when it comes to summarizing this week's chapter. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. And again, please comment below. Let me know anything that you all need from me. If I'm not meeting expectations, please let me know. And let's just make sure that we're all on the same page and that, again, these videos are actually being helpful for you all. Again, it's Monday. Have a great day and enjoy the rest of your week. I look forward to your team assignments and the discussion taking place.